Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brett McCrae. I'm the Senior Director of Customer Success at Virtru. And today I'm joined by our Vice President of Sales, Andrew Lynch, and also Jordan Minter, who is a Senior Customer Success Manager on my team. We're here to talk to you today about the FTC Safeguards Rule. It's been a really interesting past year for us here at Virtru, learning a lot about this, meeting a lot of customers and prospects who are impacted by this rule and looking to comply with the requirements within that. It's a very timely topic, as we'll talk to Andrew in just a second. The deadline for implementation of this rule is fast approaching, and we wanted to spend a few minutes today just talking a little bit about the rule, how Virtru, how our products help customers meet the compliance regulations and criteria laid out by this rule. And then we'll talk to Jordan a little bit about how our customers are doing deploying our software, tips, tricks, and lessons learned as we've gone through this FTC journey with them. So Andrew and Jordan, thanks for joining me today. How are both of you?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks
Great.
for having us.
Yeah,
you bet.
Sure.
Glad to have you. So Andrew, let's start with you. Let's pretend I know nothing about the FTC Safeguards Rule. Can you just give me the high-level view? What is it? Who does it apply to? And what should I be thinking about as I see this thing looming?
Sure, yes. So the FTC Safeguards Rule is a rule that the Federal Trade Commission came out with. Actually, it was released in, I believe, 2003. So it's been out for some time, just has not been enforced yet. It's set to be enforced on June 9th of 2023. And the rule requires specifically non-banking financial institutions to have measures in place to keep essentially customers, consumers' information secure, information that is deemed, not public. So anything that you couldn't find by just a basic Google search, for example. And within the rule, it requires these organizations that fall underneath it to do certain things. Several relate to what Virtru does, but some of those things include things such as implementing and periodically reviewing access control over your data. So ensuring that you know where your data is and who has access to it. Specifically, it also requires you to encrypt certain types of customer information. And there are some other things that it requires you to do. For example, you have to essentially document your entire plan. You have to do risk assessments. You have to adjust your program as things evolve. But at a high level, it's built to, or rather, it is out to ensure that people like you and I, when we're not working and we're regular old consumers, that the organizations that we are working with and perhaps giving some sensitive information to that we wouldn't want just posted on Reddit, for example, is secure, and there are consequences if organizations are not following those guidelines to ensure security and privacy.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Andrew. And you leading part of our sales organization, you're getting a lot of inbound requests from prospects about this. Like, who are you hearing from? Kind of paint the landscape a little bit for us as to, who we're talking to and who, I know you mentioned some of the regulation there of who it applies to, but who's coming to Virtru and why?
Sure. Yeah, I think like any new rule, here at Virtru, for example, we are not just an FTC Safeguards Rule software. We help organizations meet a wide range of compliance requirements. And just like any of those, every day, new organizations are learning that they need to abide by one of them. So every day we're talking to new organizations that maybe just learned for the first time that they will have to, fall under this specific rule. Some of those types of organizations include mortgage lenders, payday lenders, finance companies, mortgage brokers, auto dealerships, tax preparation firms, just to name a few. Those are organizations that, as you've probably yourself interacted with them, you could attest to they have some sensitive information of yours, maybe a credit check document, your social security number, your income, your social, date of birth, just to name a few. So we've seen a wide range of organizations look into this specifically, and we're here to help make it easy to meet some of the specific data privacy and protection requirements.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Andrew. And I think you said like non-banking financial institutions, right? And I thought what was interesting about everything you said is whether it's a mortgage lender, or a car dealer, you're getting an auto loan or a mortgage, a lot of these companies are processing a lot of your PII in addition to your financial information. So, I think it's a pretty broad, regulation in that way. But I think that, that non-banking financial institution piece makes a lot of sense. And thanks for highlighting those ones that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I'll real quick call out, of course, organizations would want to, on ftc.gov, ensure that they are looking into if they fall within this and need to meet it. Those were just a few. By no means am I a compliance expert, but those are just several of the types of organizations that we're hearing from, saying that they learn they need to follow this, and they're looking at us to try and help them with it.
No, I think that's a great point. And, one thing, and it might even be on the FTC website, is like businesses change, right? So you may be one business last year, you add a new service line, and all of a sudden you might fall into compliance, whether it's to this rule or some other rule. So I think that's a great call out, that it's something you need to evaluate periodically, because your business changes, what your business does changes. And as it changes, and as, the information you may be gathering from a customer or another company or whatever changes, you're subject to different guidelines, right? So I think that's a great best practice to highlight. Is number one, look at the government website. They're the ones implementing, or I should say, developing the regulation. And two, evaluate yourself, right? Because things change over time.
Yep.
Awesome. Andrew, how does Virtru fit in?
Good question. So just like I would say, again, most of these compliance requirements that we're helping organizations meet, we are just one small part. We are not by Virtru, and we are FTC Safeguards Rule compliant. I don't know of many softwares in existence that do cover everything. Of course, at the end of the day, a big part of meeting a regulation is managing people, managing processes, ensuring those processes are followed. So, of course, we can help with parts of them, some very important parts. But I wanted to share that just from talking with so many types of organizations. I think most people fully understand that. Virtru helps specifically as a data privacy encryption software to encrypt that customer information. There's a specific rule, I think it's rule 314.4 section C, that essentially states that you need to protect by encryption all customer information that's held or transmitted by you, both in transit and over external networks at rest. So essentially, you need to encrypt that customer data that you have both in transit and at rest. And with Virtru offering end-to-end encryption, we can meet those encryption requirements. We also help specifically with the need to be able to control and audit your information, that data, throughout its life cycle, and be able to specifically see or prove and control unauthorized access. And so Virtru, with our encryption, the TDF, the trusted data format, we allow someone to have complete control and oversight over their data throughout its life cycle.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And Andrew, but we're going to shift to Jordan in just a second. But anything you've learned from all the prospects that you've talked to, and those that have become customers, like anything that someone who's sitting there at their desk right now saying, "Hey, I only have X amount of days to figure out how I'm going to implement this rule," what would you say to them?
I would say that, of course, it's a journey. It's not all going to be probably completed in one day. I think the organizations that realize that they are going to need to probably look at several vendors to help with these requirements probably have it easier at the end of the day. Their expectations are not as disappointed as someone who's maybe looking for an all-in-one, solution. But I would say specifically Virtru, we can help give you some easy, quick wins. We can help with those encryption requirements. And at the end of the day, Virtru is extremely easy to use. I think Jordan will hopefully talk about that. But consistently, when we are showing prospects and talking to customers, about Virtru and who use Virtru. I think they're always impressed with how we integrate directly into your mail client and just how easy we are. So we can help you pretty quickly, check the box with some of those, again, requirements, and not put a lot of onus on your admins or your employees or the people that you're collaborating with. There are lots of options out there for encryption, not as many that are end-to-end encryption, but there still are some. Ultimately, you're looking into a software that is going to be shown and you're going to interact with your customers with. So I would recommend looking for and putting one in place where you're making it as easy as possible. If I were to be getting an auto loan, which I've done several times, and it's impossible or really, really difficult for me to open the email that says if I got the loan and what the rate is, etc. I may not be as eager to get back to the salesperson and go back to the dealership and complete the paperwork. But if I can open it instantly and I don't have to jump through hoops, I'm going to probably be more excited. So ultimately, I think thinking about how you can align something like Virtru to your business objectives is realistic. And I think a lot of people, you like that specifically about Virtru.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andrew. I think two things that you said there that really resonated with me. One, it's a journey. It's not, we're not climbing Mount Everest here. It's possible, it's doable, but it is a journey. It's not snap your fingers and all this, or wave your magic wand and overnight you're ready to go. I think the other piece you mentioned is like, yeah, we are obviously a software vendor. We do, data-centric security for emails, files, and SaaS apps. And we play an important role in this, but we're certainly not an all-encompassing solution for this rule. So we're very much a piece of the puzzle, and I think that's how, if you're out there scratching your head saying, what am I going to do? How in the world am I going to figure this out in a limited amount of time? Remember that it's a puzzle, right? And you need to find the right pieces for your business and put that puzzle together, and ultimately that's how you're going to how you're going to get this done, just like any other compliance requirement or set of regulations that you may have to follow. Awesome. So thank you, Andrew. Jordan, moving over to you, and just so everyone knows what customer success is, it's everything after the sale, right? So we have a team in place that is here to help you implement our software, train your users, talk to you about the technical details, the people details, all of those things. So if anyone's out there wondering, hey, I don't know what customer success is, in a nutshell, we take care of you after you sign on the dotted line. So Jordan, on the customer success side, you've been handling almost all of our FTC Safeguards customers, of which there are many. Just tell us a little bit about what those customers look like. Who are they? What sort of businesses are they? What industries are they in?
Sure. No, thanks for the intro. I mean, I definitely say the most notable has been the auto dealerships. We've had a lot of interest there, and a lot of new customers come in that vertical. A lot of them are just trying to get ahead of that June 9th deadline, make sure they've got all the boxes checked. Yeah, I would definitely say that it's mostly the auto dealerships.
Great. And Jordan, as you've gone through the implementation process of Virtru, and now you've done it with a lot of these customers multiple times, how's it going? Tell me a little bit about what that experience has been like, both, primarily from the customer point of view.
Yeah, I think, every customer's needs are a bit different. We've definitely had some of those white glove deployments, but, overall, they've been able to turn around pretty easily. Most of them are very, very centered on client side or server side email solutions for file sharing or email workflows that they already have to encrypt that information at transit and at rest. But and these situations aren't necessarily unique for us, but they're relatively a new process to these customers. So there's a bit of I don't want to say hand holding, but probably a bit of hand holding just to try to get them comfortable with this and how it's going to work and how it's going to fit into the existing workflow. And they're usually pretty quickly surprised at how seamlessly and easily it can fit into those workflows already. And that I think that's helped the process and helped people get really comfortable with it, and businesses get really comfortable with it really quickly.
I think that's well said, Jordan. And the other thing that, you mentioned kind of the depth and breadth of the customers that are using Virtru for this need. I think one thing that's easy for us to overlook, but important to call out, is not a single one of those customers' tech stack is the same, right? Everybody has different systems, different versions. Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Exchange on-prem, and you name it. There's a lot of different combinations and permutations out there. And I think it's been really helpful for us that what we can do is flexible enough to meet, all of those different environmental variables.
Yeah, I mean, whether, they're leveraging a combination of just email and file sharing with Google and Google Drive, or, they're leveraging some kind of CRM or dealer management solution. However they're doing business, Virtru will likely integrate very easily into those workflows. We have a stack of products, and so far they've fit right in really easily and really quickly.
No, that's great to hear. So, Jordan, this next question is a little more general, I think, but whether a customer is deploying Virtru software or some other software that they've bought to meet this need, what are some things that you suggest that administrators, security personnel, IT folks at some of these let's just say auto dealers, for example, what should they be thinking about as this deadline's coming? They're trying to implement this software, be it Virtru or something else. Like, what should be on their checklist? What should be top of mind?
I mean, just how are you currently handling this potentially sensitive data? Again, is it just email? Is it just file solutions? Is it a combination of the two? Are you leveraging a CRM? Are you leveraging a dealer management solution? Where is that data now, and how is it being shared? It is really kind of, I think, the foundation of it. And again, once you kind of understand that, and we can talk through that process with you, it's really easy for us to identify, okay, a combination of Virtru endpoint email protection with an email gateway and maybe secure share is going to work just perfect for this workflow. Or again, maybe we're going to talk an application gateway to make sure that any type of SMTP relay coming out of those applications is protected. But fundamentally, I would say just starting to think about where that sensitive information lives, how it's handled today.
That's great. And once a customer identifies that information and starts to get software in place, again, be it Virtru or something else, at the end of the day, it's all people, right? It's people that have to use it. So could you talk a little bit about that aspect of it, sort of the change management piece, and again, any guidance, tips, tricks, points that you think folks should consider when they're, because it's one thing to have the software, right? It's another thing to make sure it's being used. It's like having a full tank of gas and never doing anything with it, right? So what does that people implementation piece look like?
Again, I think it differs from place to place. A lot of them, I would say, are used to seeing some kind of new security tool come in. I've compared it a lot to like the phishing button that a lot of people are becoming very used to. It's really just kind of educating your user base. Hey, is this sensitive information? Does it need to be encrypted in transit? Is this a time for me to click that little toggle switch to make sure that information is protected? And it's really just kind of educating that user base during that onboarding process, providing those trainings, making sure that everyone understands and sees how really easy it is to use. But then on the back end, having kind of that catch-all with the email gateway. So if a user misses turning on that toggle switch, the necessary rules are in place to scan those emails and make sure that they're protected on their way out. Or maybe a warning pops up that says, hey, are you sure that this isn't sensitive information, and it looks like it has a social security number in it? Should we encrypt this? And it gives them the option to encrypt this. I'd also say another thing that I've found is really helpful is custom branding. And when I say custom branding, just for folks listening, it's the ability to brand Virtru with your company logos and colors. This has been really helpful in streamlining the introduction of this tool to people that maybe aren't familiar with it, and specifically in those customer-facing workflows. Because I mean, I'm just making a name up, but if ABC Cars is working with a customer and they're sending them an email, and all of a sudden they get an email that says Virtru, they don't know what that is. But with the custom branding, it's coming over as ABC Cars. They're seeing it as a solution within ABC Cars. It's more of an easier transition into, okay, this is I totally expected this to come from ABC Cars. They really care about protecting my data, and I can open it very easily and respond very easily. I think that's been really instrumental, especially on the employee side of helping these employees that are already talking to customers and making sure that they're comfortable receiving this and ingesting that information and being able to respond easily.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jordan. I mean, if you were actually, there's probably someone out in the world who's done this, right? But if you were to pulse the general American public about cybersecurity, right, and gave them a list of words that they think about when they think of cyber, probably phishing would be pretty high on the list, and if not the top thing, right? And so I think anything that can add a little bit more legitimacy to the software that you're using, make it not seem, but just have it be a part of your business, branded with your logo, right, coming from you, ABC Car, or whoever your organization may be, helps a ton, and ultimately that makes it easier to use. And if it's easier to use, then it's easier to make sure you maintain compliance, right? So it's very much interrelated, although it may seem like just a widget or an add-on or a nice to have. It really does make an impact on the usage of the software and ultimately complying with the regulation. There's one other thing I wanted to point out that you said that I think is extremely important with the deployments we've seen. It's so important to communicate with your employees, right? To let them know that this is coming. Virtru is so easy to use. Other tools are easy to use, but if employees don't know about it, they're never going to use it. And again, back to, it's not a great analogy, but if the full tank of gas and you never use it, then what good is the gas, right?
Right. Right.
So making sure folks are aware has been really critical, and ultimately, has led, I think, to so many of our customers having such smooth deployments. As employees know what's coming, they know what they need to do to comply, they know how to use the software, they know the dates, and then it's kind of the snowball going downhill. It just picks up steam from there, and there's no such thing as a magic wand, but good communication helps, right? Right.
It's a change, and change is different, change is hard, change is interrupting, but it flows really easily, and more often than not, I'm hearing the employees or the customers are very surprised at how light of a change or a modification it is. It's very easily folded into the existing workflows.
Absolutely. Well, Jordan, Andrew, we're running a little short on time. I wanted to ask you both one kind of final question. Give your 30-second overview, or not pitch, but kind of guidance to somebody who's looking to get in line with the FTC Safeguards Rule. What should they be thinking about? Like, final thought.
I would say don't delay it. It's easy to put something on the back burner that maybe seems like a lot of work, but you will need to meet it. And also, you're doing a service to your customers for ensuring that you're meeting these requirements. And Virtru can help with a couple quick wins, specifically when it comes to protecting your data and encrypting it and having oversight over it throughout its life cycle. And we will make the process extremely easy. And we have great resources like Jordan and the customer success team to ensure that after you sign up with Virtru, we're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to make sure that this process continues to be easy, and we're going to help you as much as we can.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Jordan, what about you?
I would probably echo that. Originally, I think the deadline was December 9th or something like that. I can't remember what the old deadline was, but and we had some customers get really close to that deadline and sign up. So there was kind of a sigh of relief when the deadline was extended. So I would echo, don't wait until the end. It's a fairly easy process, but it's much better to kind of run through it, understand it, get it deployed ahead of that deadline, so that people are a little bit more comfortable and it's not just kind of shoved down their throat. Hey, we've got to have this in place right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, that whether it's in software or anything in life, when you rush, it generally doesn't go the way, the way you'd hope it would. I'll add one final thought before we conclude, and it's this. I think compliance sometimes when you're in the business world can be viewed as kind of a dirty word, right? It's just another thing you have to do. And look, reality is you have to do it. And whether it's the FTC Safeguards Rule or HIPAA or there's all kinds of compliance regimes out there across the board. I think the more you can remember and kind of remind yourself, if you get in one, you're having a bad day and you've got to do all these things, and how are you going to comply with this? Remember the goal of compliance is not compliance for compliance's sake, right? The goal of compliance is increased security. And I think that it's really important to remember that that's the goal. And, I'm certainly not the FTC, nor is Virtru. We're not speaking on their behalf. But the goal of this, in my opinion, is very, set out by the FTC, is ultimately to protect consumer information. And if you protect consumer information, that's better for your consumers and customers, and it's better for your business at the end of the day. And again, regardless of whether that's this rule or any other, compliance regimen. So it's not just compliance for compliance's sake. It's security. It's better for your customers. It's better for your business. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. One thing I want to make sure that people know is on the landing page for this Hash It Out session, you can sign up for a free coffee. So make sure you do that. Check it out. Have a little coffee while you watch the session or after you do. Thanks for your time today. Thank you, Jordan and Andrew, for being such great guests here on the Virtru Hash It Out podcast. And good luck, everyone. The deadline is coming up quickly, and let us know how we can help. Thank you.